All right, good morning. I'm Mr. Mack. We got Miss Pickett. We got our guest today, Mr. Marcello Lee. I appreciate you, Cello. So we're just gonna start off today. So, Cello, what is your career? What is your job? What's kind of like a job description? What do you do?
Sure. I am a performing teaching artist. I am also an actor. I'm a professional dancer, choreographer, and I work in restorative justice.
Okay. Yes, yeah. I was actually just telling Miss Pickett. I was like, man, Cello's got a real cool story. Like even though like I've heard it multiple times from you, like I always enjoy, just hearing like the process and I guess the journey. Um, so yeah. So go ahead, Miss Pickett. I see you waiting to say something.
Look, when your coworker knows you, but he just listed like five different job titles. So all of those different things, most of them sounding like in the creative arts department, right? So just getting
Yep.
started with that, what made you choose to be in all of those careers? What made you pick those things? How did you get what made you pick that?
Yeah, sure. Well, I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I am a Chicago native, and I grew up in an area of Chicago called Algier Gardens, where it was a small community. Basically, I would say it was on the outskirts of Chicago. For me, coming up in that community, all I had was my imagination, um, and all I had was whatever imagination that I pulled from television or from whatever community culture that I was getting. So for me, it started at a young age. I was always into superheroes, into like comic books and stuff. So I was always into the fascination of being something to the degree of super, but I didn't really know what that meant. And so for me, I got introduced into the performing arts in high school, mistakenly, because I actually got in trouble at school. I had detention, and my detention at the specific time was to sit in this musical rehearsal for Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And I sat in that musical and saw the kids engage themselves and in script form and things like that. And I was fascinated. They were singing, they were dancing, they were acting, and I was doing that already. I just didn't know I was doing it. So for me, I sat in that rehearsal, they passed me a script. I was able to go through some of the script, and Padre was a I went to Mount Carmel High School, so I went to all boy Catholic high school, and which was a sports program, um, a high school gear for sports for jocks, and for me, I was at the time, I think I was like 5'5", couldn't play football, too little for that. Played basketball, but I was still little for that. So nobody was really giving me any accolades for sports. I was like, let me try something different, and that's where I found my love. So from that, did that. I took commercial, and then my what I wanted to do for a career. So I went to college for it, and here we are.
Dang. All right, so basically, like you said, so you like Stephanie said, you mentioned a whole lot: acting, dancing, restorative justice. So I mean, you're an entertainer. That's basically what you are, just an overall entertainer. Um, where Let me see. How do I want to ask this? Where did you what okay, I don't want to say this. So did all those come at once? Like at what point did each one of those I guess paths come for you? Like when did the dancing come? When did the acting come? When did the restorative justice come? Like how did you mesh all of those together, if that makes sense?
Sure. Well, the acting came first. The acting came first, because I grew up a kid with a stutter. I couldn't speak well as a kid, and it wasn't helpful because at the time I went to school with kids were cruel and mean, so they would make fun of me. And so I guess that was a big thing for me, is learning how to speak well, or learning how to um, articulate words and read in front of a crowd without, stuttering. And so for me, acting was the first thing that kind of found my like confidence. And then from there, I was always moving around the house. I grew up at a time in Chicago. They had house music. And so I'm a huge house head, and they had like footwork and stuff like that. So I came up. I'm an '80s baby. So I came up in a time where the kids were always dancing. Kids were always, they had groups like Youth by You. They had groups like House of Medics and stuff like that. So I was always around that environment. I just couldn't do it. So I would tell myself I can dance, but my friends would tell me, no, you can't dance. So for me, if you ask me personally, I would say dance came first. But if you ask, the science and acting was the first thing for me. So yeah, so then from there, I auditioned for a dance company, because when I went to college, they told me I needed more, because I didn't just want to be a straight actor. I'd actually wanted to train and study it. So I auditioned for a ballroom company. I didn't know I was auditioning for a ballroom company at the time, and made it. I made it on the first audition, and had to dance these different styles like salsa and jazz and tango and stuff like that. And I can mimic stuff. So I realized at that moment I can mimic things. I couldn't really understand it, but I was comfortable with acting the fool of myself. So I was comfortable with that. So I can act a fool enough to go, maybe there's something there. And I guess that's what happened. So I jumped around that audition and did my thing, and then from there, that's when the science came. So now once I made it, that's when all of the instructors started to help me to develop where the movement came from, and the purpose of the movement, the intent behind the movement. And so now I'm getting all of this like different education about how to move, the process of moving and stuff like that. And I wasn't getting that from the block. So that's, with that science, and now with this like community of, coach or Phil, I was able to just kind of manipulate my own style. And so acting, then the dancing happened. Singing, I was always around Chicago. So Chicago is just immersed with phenomenal talent. So I was always around incredible singers that would just intimidate the mess out of me. So for me, I can sing real good in the shower. You can sing real good at home, but then I get around these like powerhouses that can belt it out and go here and all up there, and so being around them, when I'm not around them, I'm like, okay, I know I can sing. I'm not around this space right now. So I've always been around great voices, and I think you are a product of your environment. So I think being around that helped me to hear different things and tones and pitch and sound and stuff like that, and adjustments, and knowing where my vocal range was. And so, for me, I guess once I got into the education aspect of all of this stuff, that's when I started, liking it more and start getting more and more on me. So in that order, it would be acting, dance, singing, and then restorative justice came about because a woman by the name of Mead Palowski, who's the executive artistic director of Story Catchers, reached out to me some team years ago about the work. And at the time, I didn't even understand what it was. I just know we were helping kids in the community. And we started off at Pullman Park, working over as a summer program, just kind of getting teens to come and teaching them how to create their own narrative. So we would take their stories or their stories that may have trauma on the story or whatever, and help them to see different sides or aspects of it and choices that they could have made when they were in that moment. So, she's been doing this work for over 30 years, and it has since evolved. And so we have programs all through the juvenile correctional facilities and stuff like that. And we help these kids find jobs. We give them job opportunity. We help them to, because I'm a man of the arts, so we just kind of use that as our overarching like tool. Because our arts helped me. I came from the same community as a lot of these kids, and the arts is was something that helped me, and I wasn't judged by where I came from. It was just a matter of are you talented or not. So
Okay, okay. Well, hold on, stop real quick. So I want Cello to tell us. So I actually know for a fact that Miss Pick is gonna love this because she loves this person. Tell a story about when you got to experience dancing with a certain artist. There's a certain artist that me and you have discussed. You know what I'm saying? So tell that story.
yes. Okay, so what happened is, as I built my career, I was one of the only black males in Chicago to do multiple different styles of movement at the time. Um, a lot of people kind of stayed in their lane. They were either hip hop or they were either jazz. At that particular time, I was doing all kind of different stuff, different movements and style. And I ran into a group by the name of Dior, and Dior had just 2004. They had just won this Chris Brown dance down thing. They won first place, and at the time, Chris Brown had just dropped and was like just the hottest thing, like coming up. Marion had just had his time. Now it's Chris time, and so I was all about it. I was all about literally following whatever art that I wanted to back up for. I was gonna follow them. I was gonna try to get their number. I was gonna be backstage. I was gonna do everything I needed to do to get the job. And I the same group that won in 2000, they had back in 2005 to pull it out. So it was a day and a performance for Chris at the end of the event, and it was an epic time. So for me, I got to not just dance Chris Brown and bless the stage with him, but also battle. Like it was, it wasn't just it was an epic dance battle as well in 2005. So a very special memory for me. Because at the time I didn't understand what battle dancing was. I didn't understand what that, I understood what choreography was. I understood what backup dancing was, looking just as good as the artist on stage. And so for me, having to do those two elements was something very special for me. And we won first place, so we won the battle. Chris Brown went nuts over it because he got to see so much more than just his choreography on stage. And it was definitely a special memory and special time for me.
All right, go ahead, Miss Pickett. So, Cello. So I know for a fact that she loves Chris. So I had to, had to have you throw that in there.
I'm not gonna lie, I just got like a little lost in my question because oh my gosh, like I am a fan. Okay, I love Chris Brown. And for talk about amazing experience, like that almost brought me to tears, not just because I'm a Chris Brown fan, but to, one of the things that I really try to talk to our kiddos about, our students about, is that when you're following your passion, like set your dreams large and do what you love, and it will find you where you need to be. And that story is just a complete and total testament to that, where, pulling out a lot of things that you were saying, like, I'm okay with being silly, right? I am a product of my environment. When you were talking about the singing and what you surround yourself with. So just by your being yourself and continuing to push forward with something, like you didn't have to have all the answers. You found yourself in this situation where you were dancing with Chris Brown. So I love that. I'm so excited for you. That's even just an experience, but I'm happy that you were even sharing that with us, because that is that piece of the pie that I try to really talk to them about. Like, you can do it. Like, you can do this, whatever it is. And you're a living example of that. Like, okay, well, I ran into Chris Brown, just being yourself. Like, you didn't have to be some, it wasn't that it was this or that. It was just, no, this is what I do. This is my passion project. And boom, here it goes. I meet Chris Brown. So I'm just kind of like, boom, like Oh my goodness. But it does make me want to ask you, because that is also something like with when you were talking about the neighborhood that you came from, just your story, and you went from, the act on paper, right? The acting, the dancing, then the singing, and then getting into restorative justice. And you mentioned very early on, you were saying that, you grew up loving superheroes and things like that. You just knew you wanted to be super. So for thinking about my little babies that I get to talk to, when you decided to commit to, no, I'm going to dance, right? I'm going to dance, or I'm going to act, right? I'm pretty sure there were people in your life that were telling you that maybe you should be doing something else, right? Like they were probably saying to you, like, oh, yeah, you're trying to work on your, speech and doing it this way. Don't do it that way. Go and do it this way. So were you always dead set on that? Or was there something that you thought initially you wanted to do, and then you decided like, no, 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 I'm gonna stick with the passion project? Do you get where I'm going with that? Like what did that look like for you?
Yes. It's interesting. You bring it up, and I thank you for that question. I'm actually working on the project right now. That's a culminating. That's hitting some of these areas that we're talking about. And for me, I taught myself how to ride a bike at 5 years old. I asked my mom and my dad, and this is actually part of the project that I'm working on. What I asked them because they didn't have time. They, either work or whatever, and I did it. My mom, it was a neighbor called my mom, screaming and yelling, called her name. She thought something was wrong. She said, "Your baby's out here riding a bike." So the mystery was how. The mystery was how did he do that? And I failed and I failed and I failed, I failed so many times on that bike before, I got it. And that's kind of been like, I guess that was like an overall like energy that was produced in me to, whatever it takes, right? I knew in the sense where, once I approached my family about my career, they were like, no, get a job, be an architect, be a doctor, be a lawyer, you do this, do that. They already had their plan for me. But for me, I knew I always kind of knew my destiny. I already knew what was going to happen once I was around the right type of people. And so whoever helped me with my speech, that's who I was going to be around with. Whoever was going to help me with my confidence, that's who I wanted to be around. Whoever was going to help me with myself, that's who I wanted to be around. If you wasn't about building me up, then I was probably going to move the other way or find the area where it was going to help me build myself up. And so, that came about through a lot of adversity, through a lot of just knowing that success comes from failure. I think in order to succeed, you got to understand what it means to, for me, all of my success came from I had to mess up, and then somebody was like, "That's okay, you do it again, do it this way this time," or "That's okay." They didn't look down on me and go, "Oh, you suck. Oh my goodness, don't get out of here." And that's the energies that I grew up with all the time. And coming from the project is that, it's constant battle and pressure. So it just makes you like either a shell of yourself or, a monster of yourself, in a good sense. And so, for me, I just really try to encourage anybody and to find my biggest advice is you are as big as your network. If your network is small and ain't nobody doing it in your network and they broke and they're complaining, then that's pretty much, you probably need to go find a new network. Probably need to find yourself a new group of friends. And that's been a lot of my success, is that, doing right by people. Not about how talented I am, or not about, it's just by being in the space, doing the job, showing up and showing out, serving, caring. I know these things are cliche and generalized, but it helps. They manifest into different things in life. And I think that's what it was. I found a group of, kids that may not come from the same community as me, may talk different from me, but yet we were able to see something a project or something and able to come together as a team and do it. And I think that is, the biggest piece to the pie is like finding yourself the right type of people that's going to build you up and whatever you're trying to do.
So I was gonna ask you, can you talk a little bit about, like you said, basically fixing your network of people, right? So, and I think a lot of artists run into that issue. What if people that are in your network might not be doing that much? What if that's family, that's brother and sister, what if that's cousin, what if that's, best friend that they grew up years old? Like how do you navigate, I guess in your opinion, how do you navigate this really, really close people can't necessarily out, you know what I mean?
Yes. I think what a great deal of patience and a great deal of I think respecting people's space. I think a lot of times when people are dealing with things, a lot of times people often can try to put themselves in their shoes, and sometimes we can't. Sometimes we don't even understand what somebody's going through. But I think really taking yourself away from that and seeing where they're at. So I think at work we deal with a lot of like conflict resolution. And I didn't grow up with conflict resolution. I didn't even know what that was until I honestly got into the restorative justice work and working for story catchers. And so now I'm able to see, how to deal with conflict resolution, either with people or either with different things that I'm dealing with myself. And so I think that's a challenge. But yet at the same time, you don't necessarily have to be friends with everybody. I think it's just generalized respect, you know what I mean? And knowing who's the different intelligences that's in your room or in your circle. For me, I can't be around all artists, because I need administrative skills. I need somebody to type up Adobe email. I need somebody to do graph work. I need somebody to help me out with accounting. You know what I mean? So it's just, you realize that, all right, what is missing? Or if you step back and reflect on your life, you see you should be able to analyze and figure out what is missing, what's working, and then, go from there. My two favorite subjects is math and science. I wasn't that good at science, but I like it. Because I'm a numbers guy. I like to see numbers and patterns and things like that. So I'm a huge thinker. I'm a huge nerd when it comes to a lot of things. But overall, I'm big into community and network. And so, and there's going to be something that tries to shake up the room. I think just again, stepping back and reflecting, taking yourself outside of the situation and figure out how to have those conflict resolutions.
I want to piggyback on that. And I love I just love the way your mind works with this, especially with the career field that you're in, right? Because what Mac was saying is that we have, several young kids that are very much into entertaining, right? Into entertaining and have these different talents. And they have on one end, parents and family members and, and not for lack of love, right? That are telling them, hey, no, choose something that's more concrete, that might be more solid. And then the other thing is that they have going on is that they have a lot of their peers that are around them. And, they're not necessarily all the time the greatest influence. Sometimes they're wonderful, and then other times not so much. So if you could go back, because you're this wonderfully made person, now, if you could reflect back to that time when maybe you were in middle school, and those kinds of things were happening and not necessarily knowing what conflict resolution looked like, how did you decide, like looking at those friends, like, this might not be for me, or maybe I don't need to listen to that, or maybe I do need to listen to that? How did you go about maybe navigating some of that during such a crazy time in, in life, teenage years, those young years?
Yeah. I think, well, in grade school, it was a little bit different because I was around a lot of kids from the same community. And so, you know, we didn't have things to pull from. So it was a lot of conflict, a lot of fights, a lot of gang activity, a lot of stuff. So it was just, you know, survival of the fittest in that aspect. I think that for me, the shift was when I got in high school and I started getting around all of these different people that come from different backgrounds. And, you know, I went to Mark Carmel High School, which is an all boy high school, college prep high school. So I had to test into the school. I had to dress up every day. I had to learn these like if man values and what it means to be a man and like what is this stuff? Like I didn't know one of this stuff, but it was awesome. It was great teaching and stuff because I'd never been around it. You know, they were really trying to shape us and build us up. Um, so I'm getting all of these different things that okay, you know, some people, somebody have saw a therapist. I didn't even know what a therapist was. Like you see somebody, you know, and I see a dad um may tell his child I love you. And I didn't come from a community where a lot of dads was doing that, you know. And you see that man go up to his child and hug them. I'm like, dang. So you start seeing, you know, for me it was high school. I started seeing all of these different different things happening. Um because I was only around a segregated community, which was all black, poor, you know, and just a lot of trauma on trauma. You know what I mean? So it was all of this different stuff, and you know, and then our only method of like dealing with stuff was pray, you know, pray or go to church. And I, you know, I'm a Christian man. I firmly believe in that, but I also believe in, you know, professional help as well. You know, therapy and things like that. Um, so yeah, I think you know, for me, it didn't happen in grade school. It was a lot of messy stuff, and but yet when I got in high school, that's when I may have, you know, somebody come and say, hey, it's okay, you don't have to be so angry, you know, it's okay, you know, or I'm sorry that happened to you, and you know, it's okay to be sad, and you know, things like that. And I'm like, oh really? You know, you telling me it's okay to cry? You're not yelling at me? Oh man, okay, this is all right. So you know, love. I think finding love, somebody that express love and care, and it doesn't have to necessarily come from your family. It can come from a friend. You know what I mean? Like you know, and you know what that feels like. You know, I think we all do.
So, what is, and I know this might be hard because I know you wear a lot of different hats, but what does a typical day look like for you? Like, I guess, like scheduling wise, you know what I mean? Like, what does a typical work day, I guess, look like for you?
Sure. What typical day for me for an artist is like it's crazy. So for me, I love teaching. I love teaching movement. I really try to create. I try to live it. I really try to create. You know, plays or different stories to, you know, to keep things happening. So I get up in the morning. I'm into health and fitness, so I train a lot. So I'll work out in the morning, eat. I do believe you are what you eat, so I make sure I get a good meal to myself. Um, I am my mom's home care, so I'm taking care of my mom. So I do that during the day. Then when I leave her, I am at the studio. I choreograph a lot for the community, for the kids. I oversee about 300 kids a week. Teach about 20 classes a week, dancing. And if I'm not doing that, I mean literally reaching out to artist friends in my network and seeing what is going on. I try to keep my ear to the ground. I am huge in trying to build people up and lift people up. I think if you do that in return, you're going to get things in life. So I'm always trying to, you know, spend at least a part of my day, at least an hour, saying happy birthday to somebody or saying, hey, hope you're doing well. Or, you know, a lot of my friends in the industry that are, I call them big wigs or can make movers and shakers and can make big things happen. I may drop them a text or something like that and go, hey, you know, seeing what's going on. This is staying in the loop and not just only reaching out when there's an opportunity. So I do that a lot. what else? I'm in rehearsals. I'm in two productions right now, so I may have a rehearsal either on a Tuesday or on Wednesday. I do a lot of I'm in a musical right now called 1619. It's a journey of a people. So I play I'm also the choreographer for that musical. So that's a traveling musical. We just did at our first Juneteenth event down in Clarksville, Tennessee. So I'm in that 1619 production right now. So I'm traveling, touring for that. I'm also writing my own production right now. So yeah, I'm doing quite a bit, quite a few things. And this is on a daily basis. So I revisit these things daily. So
Wait, so cello. So two things real quick. Number one, this musical, you got to send me the info. I don't know if y'all gonna be doing any shows in you know in this area, but send me the info on that. That's number one.
yeah,
Number two, so this is actually something that me and Miss Pickett decided. We want to do something similar like this every summer. Um, you know, it's important to both of us, and we've talked about it multiple times, to just be able to expose kids to just to different things. And I know, and you actually alluded to it when you said that um, it seemed like your eyes kind of opened up once you got into high school and you were around different people, right? And you were able to see different perspectives. I'm telling you right now, we gotta. I want to get you to do this again next year, but we gonna have to split it up because we gonna have you come twice because you do too much. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm trying, like we, like, and I know way more of your dance history too that you ain't even kind of touched on either yet. So I'm like, man, we're gonna do a dance, straight dance one, and then because I also want to hear more about the restorative justice and that you do too. You know what I'm saying? So I just that's just in my mind. But next year, I'm gonna have to lock you down for 2 days. So I'm just I'm pre-warning you right now. Okay.
yeah, I'm on. Awesome. That's
Um,
awesome.
but I think what I was gonna say. Oh, so the big question. A lot of us jobs changed. Obviously, pandemic. How did that affect you? And I'm because obviously being in the arts, and I'm assuming um there wasn't much dancing in at least in studios going on. So were you doing stuff on Zoom or were you doing nothing at all? Like, so how did the pandemic kind of affect what you do?
Yeah, it's interesting. The pandemic actually, I was in the middle of class when it happened. They were like, "You got to go home." So, um, it was a strange time. It was a very interesting, strange time because everything stopped for us, for me. And so I had to be introduced into this virtual world of teaching that I didn't know anything about. I'm a physical mover. I move with physicality. I like, you know, I love being around people. So it was very difficult. It was very difficult to teach on Zoom and to engage people, my students. I felt like I had to do a little bit more. And it's something about, again, seeing somebody physically and seeing somebody on the screen. It's a different thing. It's a different feel. So for me, it was very difficult. It took us a long time to try to figure things out. And so I think as an artist, we all, no opportunity and no gig has ever been the same for me. I've never walked into a space or a show, on stage where it's been the same as I did something before. There's been some similarities of things, or I can kind of see stuff, but nothing has ever been the same. So, I did a lot of improv in my life, a lot of improv, right on the spot. You gotta, troubleshoot. You may have to put out a fire and calm yourself down. And that's what it was, trying to figure out how do we do this. So I found myself teaching 20 classes physically to teaching 20 classes virtually on the screen. So I lost a lot of kids because it was just tough for them. They weren't around me. I bring a lot to class outside of movement. I bring a lot of teachings and stuff like that. And so it was hard to really engage them into, that stuff if they're not around me. So yes, and towards the end of the year, end of the season, things started to get a little bit better, but the overall consensus was Zoom was not where it was. And so, yes. So I think it worked for staff meetings. I think it worked well for, like, for those that can sit and articulate things and try to solve problems. But trying to teach my awesome dancers or movers on Zoom is difficult because even the times are off. I can't even really see the real time of their movement. They can't even really rock the beat that I'm rocking at the same time. And that's what, for me, that's all about it. That's what hip hop is. And the movement aspect is all of those beats and breaks. So there was a lot of technical issues. So yeah.
So, well, yeah, first of all, I mean, I definitely think that we can all relate to the fact that Zoom was a virtual teaching and trying to engage the babies and engage the children. Yeah, it wasn't where it was at. The struggle puff was real. And it's like I didn't feel like I could pick just one struggle through this pandemic. So I absolutely feel where you are coming from with that. But that actually makes me want to ask you because again, so many different hats, okay, which the hat you got on today is great too. But
Hey, thank you.
so, no problem. So many different hats, right? And you were talking about how it is that you bring yourself, you bring your element to the class, you bring your energy. So with all these different things that you do, and for a student that's thinking about getting into entertaining, how do you feel like what you do makes a difference? Like really makes that impact a difference?
Yes. I think what I do makes a difference because of how, for one, how something is expressed. I'm huge into I try to teach my students about being full out. Just be full out with speaking, full out with you expressing yourself. You you know express yourself to the fullness of what that is. Um, so I think getting into this work is difficult. It is trial and error. I'm not gonna sit up here and say it's an easy road. But I think if you use it, because what we're doing, we have an audience. Being an entertainer, we always have an audience, and I think what you're giving to that audience, or the message you're delivering is very important and can have some kind of impact on them. So and you don't have to um, necessarily be making $1 million doing it. You can have an audience of 1,000 people and not have make anything. It's just what's happening in that moment. If what kind of voice are you raising? For me, I grew up around kids with a lot of trauma. I grew up with kids a lot of abuse, and so I've just made it my flag to make sure I am reaching out and making sure that those people have different lanes, because I at one point I was overlooked, and I understand what that feels like. One point what I was trying to do was not um, encouraged. So for me, I feel like what I'm doing to make a difference is having that in my mind, knowing that there's a lot of people out here that feel alone and want to express themselves and don't have an outlet to do it. And so I'm one of those guys to help you find yourself and find your way to do it. Oh, I can make a call, to help you get your voice out there. So this is why I believe what I'm doing is to make a difference. This is why I constantly put myself around these different spaces, because if I can help you, I may have somebody that can.
Great. So you talked a lot about dance. You talked a little bit about restorative justice, and you talked about doing the musical. So a little bit more about acting. So talk about dreams.
Yes. So in 2010, I believe, I was backup dancing for an Asian pop group in Mongolia in Asia, and right after that tour, I got called up to read a script for a film called Dreams. What at the time was projected to be a dance film, and based off a true story of actually a college friend of ours who passed away some years ago. So they were doing a story about him, and it had been talked about for many years. So at one point, I didn't even think it was going to happen. So then, yes, I get the script, and I had to read for a part, Quentin, and got called back for the part, got casted for it. So yes, there is a film that I star in called Dreams. That's about 10 years old now, about 10 years old. And yes, so check it out. It's on Amazon Prime. It was on Netflix.
It's on it's on Xfinity too. I seen it like a couple months ago. It came up on like my on demand. It was on Xfinity too.
Hey, there you go. It's on Xfinity. So yes, so that was another thing. It came back from my network. It wasn't even something that I even saw coming. It was just being around the same people, same environment. You work, and I got called to read the script, got casted for it. Extremely grateful for it. Before that, I was actually my first time like dibbling in film acting because I was only trained in stage acting. So it took me some time to understand the difference between film acting and stage acting. So I was on a film project in Detroit. And the industry changes when you're on stage. I blessed a lot of Chicago stages, and it's pretty consistent. A lot of people get their chops from Chicago in terms of acting. This is an incredible city to be in terms of getting your acting chops. And then you have film acting, which is totally different ball game. And so that was my first time dibbling in that. I was blessed and got casted for this film. Got to perform with a lot of sitcom actors that a lot of people grow with from like the 90s and like 90 television shows. So if you get a chance to see the film, hopefully you'll recognize some familiar faces in there. So thank you, Dre. Thank you for bringing it up. Yes, that is an awesome piece of work that I do want to encourage you all to check out when you get a chance. Dreams the movie.
Go ahead, Steph. Go ahead.
No, look, like that was a lead with that. So, but we're sending out, just to let you know, we're sending out newsletters to our families. And then of course, as you well know, this is being recorded. We're uploading these. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put that in there as well. And I also too, if you could say it again, you were talking story catchers.
Yes.
I want to put that down as a resource as well. Yes. If you can you please send that information over to Mr. Mack, and just like so that
Absolutely.
I can include that as a resource for our young kiddos, like another opportunity, another lane, right? Another chance to try some stuff out and be exposed. So, but thank you. Oh my gosh, this was amazing. You are such an interesting person. Yeah, I'm with him. We need like book him for 3. Man, 3.
We're gonna work it out next year, Chell. I'm gonna give you. I'm forewarning you right now. It's gonna be at some point in June of next year again. But like I said, I definitely, because I love your story, and there's even so much more that you could speak on. So yeah, I definitely want to try to get you for 2 days next year for sure.
Definitely. But well, I'm honored. I am honored to do this. Thank you, Mr. Mack, so much for calling me up and for being a good friend. And you guys don't know, I do call Mr. Mack the doctor. I do call him Dr. Dre. So so just so you all know.
Well, much appreciation. Thank you. We appreciate you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.